President Trump's approval on the economy has actually been falling. Back in August, the AP had 43% approving of how he was handling it. Number now down to 37. Let's bring Doug Flynn in on this, of course, our favorite certified financial planner, by the way. It's our rankings show.
Thanks.
So there's a couple things here, and I have one other number in a second, but it's just a way for us to kind of talk about the topics we always talk about. This says what to you? Is it more about, how people see Trump personally, or is it something about the economy specifically? I mean, what would those numbers show to you?
Yeah. I think compared to Trump 1.0, where his economy approval rating hovered close to 50%, it was in the high 40s, comparatively, at election day of this one, Trump 2.0, he was right around 40%. So he's kind of hovered around 40% this round. So it depends on what you're comparing it to. But I think it has dipped down this past month. And I think it's just the sort of getting tired of inflation being higher than people want it to be. Yeah. I think the job picture has definitely gotten weaker. And housing's just been completely unaffordable. And so while maybe we're making some improvements there, there hasn't been a lot of improvements on any of those fronts to speak of. And I think that's weighing in here a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't mention tariffs, and I think you're probably right. I think it's more, I mean, that might be some of it too. People hear all the talk about it, but I think it's probably, if anything, jobs. I mean, the job market is just not strong right now. And when the job market's not strong, people don't feel good about the economy.
Yeah, and in Trump 1.0, the economy was inflation was really low. It was sub 2%. There wasn't really a talk about jobs until later, when there was a lot of talk about a recession. And while we didn't have one, you still had a weakening job market. So that does weigh on people. I think that's really the forefront of at least for this polling that you're seeing here, what's weighing in a little bit. But it did dip down this past month, and he has to be careful. If it dips even further, those are the issues that can change midterms and certainly the next election.
The second thing I said, I had something else on the polling that we have is on gender, and how men see the economy versus women. Now, this is always interesting because there is a chicken or an egg component to all of this. So men, who are more likely, by the way, to support the president anyway, think the economy is stronger, 55%. Women, the not so good or poor number is at 65%, which is obviously very high. So there's a couple of things here. Is there something specifically happening in the economy where, a female responding to a poll would be more likely to say, all right, this is a bad economy because of X? Or is it that, or maybe it's a combination, that females are less likely to support the president, and when you don't feel good about the president, you don't feel good about the economy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think when you dig into this and you look at it, you say the gap has widened between women and men, but it really has widened to the point that it was in 2019. So the Journal is saying that, women tend to be more Democrat-oriented. And so when you're sort of out of favor with your party, you tend to be a little bit more pessimistic. And so it makes sense that the numbers here are rivaling what they were in 2019, which was when Trump was last in before Biden came in. So there's that. And then I think the other thing that when you dig in here, you find that men, at least in being super general, overgeneralizing, men tend to be more macro in their view of the economy. They look at the stock market, they look at the unemployment, they look at the jobs and that kind of stuff. And women tend to be more micro. I'm not making this up or saying anything, just women tend to do more of the grocery shopping versus men. And when you're at the grocery store and you were promised lower prices, and that's not happening, and inflation is still there, and grocery prices, while they might be going up less than they were before, they're still going up. So that weighs on you. You're going there every day. And so the more micro look at the economy is the way women tend to look at it. So I think you combine that, and you're seeing a little bit of this that's showing up.
Now, I don't hear it in the same chauvinistic fashion, Doug, that you hear it, that the women do all the grocery shopping.
I was trying to avoid that as best I could.
You didn't. No, I'm kidding. But what I heard you saying is that men are kind of like at 30,000 feet and don't want to get in the weeds and don't know anything about the details of what's going on in life, and women are detail-oriented. That's what I heard.
You could say that on a lot of things. And this is not me. This is the Journal. If you go there, you can read it, and they have all the backing facts.
By the way, you're a guy. Are you optimistic about the economy, to be serious? I mean, how do you feel about things? I mean, what would you tell people? That's what your job is. You're telling people how to invest, right? Like, I mean, what are you telling people?
Yes, I think it's more of a near-term concern that we have to navigate through. Definitely longer term, I'm not concerned at all. I think all those things will work out in the long term. You can't bet against the U.S. Yes,
They always
exactly.
do, right? Seriously,
But
yeah.
in the near term, we do have some concerns that we have to get housing, we have to worry about the job picture, and they got to get inflation down a little bit. I think those things are coming if they're able to get through that, and so that can kind of mitigate that. But, you know, also recessions tend to happen. We haven't had one, and so those are not, you know, of course they're scary when you're going through it, but in the big picture, that's healthy for the economy, even though nobody wants to go through it. So perhaps some of that is not a bad thing to adjust things, and that's what gets you to a much better longer-term picture.
Yeah.
And then the market, of course, is a little bit overvalued, so that's concerning. All in the near term, and we'll see how we get through that, and then back to the long term.
Thank you, Doug. Instead of trying to save you, I think I buried you there. Have a great night and all, but everything. Doug Flynn.